The United States Navy spent $13 billion building the USS Gerald R. Ford. It is the most expensive warship ever constructed, the most technologically ambitious naval vessel in history. And for years after it was delivered, several of its most critical systems did not work properly. The catapults that launch aircraft failed to meet reliability targets. The weapons elevators that move bombs from the magazines to the flight deck took years longer than planned to become operational. The radar system was so problematic that the Navy decided to rip it out and replace it entirely. $13 billion. And a ship that its own testers said was not ready. So here is the question that no one in the defense industry wants to answer honestly. Is the Gerald R. Ford the future of naval warfare? Or the most expensive mistake the Navy has ever made? The answer is more complicated than either side admits. To understand the Ford, you have to understand what it replaced. The Nimitz class was the backbone of American carrier aviation for nearly 50 years. 10 ships, a proven design, reliable, predictable, and deeply understood by the thousands of sailors who operated them across decades of deployments. But by the early 2000s, the Navy faced a problem. The Nimitz design was reaching its limits. The steam catapults that launch aircraft require enormous amounts of fresh water, converted from seawater through energy-intensive desalination. The maintenance burden is staggering. The hydraulic weapons elevators move ordnance slowly, limiting how fast the ship can rearm and relaunch its aircraft. The legacy radar systems cannot simultaneously track the volume and variety of modern threats. The Navy's answer was not to build a better Nimitz. It was to build something fundamentally different. A carrier that replaced steam with electricity, hydraulics with electromagnetics, and every major system redesigned from scratch. The result was the Gerald R. Ford. And the gamble the Navy took was this: they built the ship before the technology was proven. That decision changed everything. For 60 years, every aircraft launched from an American carrier was thrown into the sky by steam. The process is violent. High-pressure steam is bled from the ship's nuclear reactors, stored in accumulators, and released in a single explosive burst that drives a piston down a track beneath the flight deck. The piston is connected to a shuttle. The shuttle is connected to the aircraft's nose gear, and in approximately 2 seconds, the aircraft accelerates from 0 to over 150 miles per hour. The forces are immense. Pilots describe it as being hit in the chest. The acceleration is front-loaded, a massive initial jolt followed by a rapid decay. There is no way to precisely control the force. A heavy fighter receives roughly the same impulse as a light trainer, and the stress on the airframe is significant. The Ford replaced this system with something that had never been attempted on a warship: EMALS, the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System. Imagine an electric motor. Now imagine unrolling that motor into a straight line 300 feet long, embedded beneath the flight deck. Instead of a rotor spinning inside a stator, there is a carriage sliding along a linear track, propelled by a traveling magnetic wave that accelerates it from rest to launch speed in a single, smooth pulse. The difference is precision. A steam catapult cannot adjust its force in real time. EMALS can. Software controls the acceleration curve, tailoring the launch energy to the exact weight of the aircraft being launched. A 33,000-pound F/A-18 receives a different profile than a 15,000-pound drone. The launch is smoother, the stress on the airframe is lower, and the system can cycle faster, recharging in seconds rather than minutes. The Ford is designed to launch an aircraft every 45 seconds during surge operations. That translates to a potential 270 sorties per day, compared to 240 for a Nimitz, a 33% increase in sustained combat power. On paper, EMALS is a revolution. In practice, it was a nightmare. During early testing, the system failed to meet its reliability targets by a wide margin. The mean time between critical failures was far below what the Navy required. Excessive vibrations occurred during certain launch configurations. Software glitches required constant patching. And the entire system was so complex that maintenance crews could not fix it without off-ship technical support from the contractor. Congress demanded answers. The Government Accountability Office issued report after report warning that the Navy had integrated immature technology into a first-of-class hull. Critics argued that the Ford was proof that the military had lost the ability to build things that actually worked. But here is what the critics missed. Every new technology in military history has failed initially. Jet engines failed, nuclear reactors failed, GPS failed. The question was never whether EMALS would have problems. The question was whether those problems could be solved. And after thousands of launches across multiple deployments, EMALS is working. Not perfectly, not without continued refinement, but working, and delivering capabilities that steam catapults physically cannot match. The Ford did not fail because EMALS was a bad idea. It struggled because the Navy tried to invent the future while building a ship at the same time. And the catapult was not the only system that struggled. A Nimitz-class carrier moves ordnance from its deep magazines to the flight deck using cable-driven hydraulic elevators. Each elevator can carry roughly 10,000 pounds. Each one moves at approximately 100 feet per minute. The system works. It has worked for decades. But it is slow, and in a high-tempo combat environment where the goal is to rearm and relaunch aircraft as fast as possible, slow is a problem. The Ford replaced these elevators with 11 advanced weapons elevators, electromagnetic lifts that use linear synchronous motors instead of cables and hydraulics. Each one can carry 24,000 pounds, more than double the capacity. Each one moves at 150 feet per minute, 50% faster. The math is significant. More weight per cycle at higher speed means the Ford can theoretically rearm its aircraft far faster than any Nimitz, which means more sorties, which means more combat power per hour. But the elevators became the Ford's most visible failure. When the ship was delivered in 2017, none of the 11 weapons elevators were fully operational. The electromagnetic systems were so new, so complex, and so difficult to integrate that the Navy spent years after delivery trying to get them to work reliably. Imagine a $13 billion aircraft carrier that cannot efficiently move bombs from its magazines to its flight deck. The most advanced warship ever built, and the crew has to work around an ordnance handling system that is not fully functional. For the sailors aboard, this was not an abstract engineering problem. It was their daily reality. It meant longer working hours, more manual handling, slower turnaround times, and the knowledge that the ship they were serving on was not performing at the level it was designed to reach. The Navy did not build a ship and then add technology to it. It built the technology and the ship simultaneously. And when the technology was not ready, the ship suffered. That same philosophy extended to one more critical system. The Ford was originally equipped with a dual-band radar, the AN Spy-3 and AN Spy-4 operating together. The concept was ambitious. Two different radar systems working in tandem to provide simultaneous volume search and horizon tracking, giving the carrier a comprehensive picture of the air and missile threat environment. The reality was different. The dual-band radar proved expensive to maintain, difficult to keep reliable, and unique to a single ship, meaning spare parts, training, and technical support had to be dedicated exclusively to the Ford. No other vessel in the fleet used the same system. They decided to remove the dual-band radar from the Ford and replace it with the AN Spy-6, the same radar being installed on the new Arleigh Burke Flight 3 destroyers. Follow-on Ford-class carriers. The Kennedy, the Enterprise, are being built with the SPY-6 from the start. The Ford's radar story is not a story of failure. It is a story of institutional learning. The Navy tried something ambitious, discovered it did not work as intended, and changed course. They see the $13 billion price tag and the years of technical problems and conclude that the ship is a failure. Or they see the electromagnetic catapults and the advanced weapons elevators and conclude that the ship is a triumph. Neither is accurate. The Ford is a prototype disguised as a warship. It is the first ship in its class. Every system aboard, EMALS, AAG, the weapons elevators, the original radar, was a first-generation technology being tested in an operational environment for the first time. No shore-based test facility can replicate the conditions of a real deployment. No simulation can predict every failure mode. The only way to find out if these systems work is to put them on a ship, send that ship to sea, and discover what breaks. That is what the Ford is doing. It is breaking things, finding out why, and fixing them. Every deployment generates data. Every failure teaches the engineers something that no lab can teach them. And every correction is incorporated into the next ship in the class. The Kennedy will be better than the Ford because the Ford went first. The Enterprise will be better than the Kennedy. By the time the 4th or 5th Ford-class carrier enters service, the systems that cause so much trouble on the lead ship will be mature, reliable, and producing the combat power they were designed to deliver. This is not unique to the Ford. The first Nimitz-class carrier had problems. The first nuclear submarine had problems. The first stealth aircraft had problems. Every generational leap in military technology begins with a platform that does not work perfectly. The question is whether the underlying technology is sound enough to justify the investment. And the answer, increasingly, is yes. EMALS launches aircraft more smoothly, with greater precision, and with the ability to handle drones that steam catapults cannot. The weapons elevators, when functioning, move twice the ordnance at 50% greater speed. The ship generates enough electrical power to support future weapons, lasers, electronic warfare systems, railguns, that the Nimitz class physically cannot accommodate. The Ford is not a finished weapon. It is a platform that is learning how to become one, and the 5,000 sailors aboard are not just operating a ship. They are teaching it. $13 billion. That is the price of inventing the future while building a warship at the same time. Every system aboard the Ford is doing something that has never been done before on a warship. And every system is improving. The launches are getting smoother. The elevators are coming online. The lessons are being built into the next ship. The Nimitz class served for 50 years because the first Nimitz worked well enough to prove the design. The Ford class will be judged not by the first ship, but by the 5th. And by the time that ship deploys, the technology that caused so much controversy will be invisible. Just part of the background, working quietly, the way all mature technology eventually does. If you think that story matters, consider subscribing. We cover the systems behind the headlines, not just the specs, but the problems, the people, and the reasons it all matters. Drop a comment and tell us. Which detail surprised you most? The catapults that failed to meet reliability targets? The elevators that took years to work? Or the fact that the Navy ripped out an entire radar system and started over? And a question for our next video. The Ford can generate more electrical power than any carrier ever built. What weapons does that power enable? Lasers, electromagnetic railguns, and systems that do not exist yet. That story is coming next.